Do you know what's super neat? Achieving the shot you want, exactly what you were looking for, and all it took was just one friggin' light. So in this video, we're talking just about that. Some of my favorite shots where all it took was one lighting fixture to get exactly the look that we were going for. Whether that light is helping to amplify and ride along the practicals and the natural light in the space, or if it literally is just that one single source giving us everything we need to get exactly what we wanted. Nice. So let's start breaking down some shots. So the first shot we got here is from the last music video I shot. Our main source of all the light we're getting in this is coming from the porch door, coming through the glass pane windows. And to be quite honest, just this shot without the light on would have been a happy camper. But I wanted just a little more of a boost. I wanted to increase the shape on our talent. I wanted to get a bit of an ambient lift in the backdrop and our deepest black values within the image. So the technique here is simply a 600D with a spotlight attachment, which is firing into the top of this door on the right here. And just up on the ceiling, we are blasting that spot with light and using that return bounce to fill out some of that shadow and to get a little more of a lighting shape that is on the edges of our character, that which you can see in the next shots cut into his actual face, creating more of a Rembrandt, getting a little bit on the eyes and bringing back some of that skin detail that we might risk becoming a pure silhouette. And all that is just that 600 with the spotlight, sniping that part of the wall and getting the return bounce. I did a video talking about this more, but the whole idea is essentially we are just blasting this controlled shape of light in an area where we wish we could put a light. And because we're using it as a bounce source from a spotlight, we don't need to diffuse it. It's already getting diffused as a bounce source. And because we're using a spotlight mount, we're able to shape that light into whatever form we need so that it A, doesn't creep its ugly head into the shot, and it gives us enough width, length, or whatever shape we need it to be. It's a great technique. I try to use it as much as possible. I've done really cheap versions of this kind of shot, like putting an Amaran 60X up as a bounce, but at the end of the day, that's just, your regular bounce light. Using a sniper bounce technique like this allows you to put that light all the way back into the space, back by the camera, back by where director is, quite frankly, wherever you want. So you don't have to worry about that piece of equipment being involved in the shot or having to rig it and put it on stands in a way that you have to get it out. All right, second shot. This is from a short film that is still in post-production, so we're not gonna go into what it is, but I was the DP on it. We shot on the Venice and we shot in the Vespids once again. But this time around, I had a crew, we had a little bit of resources, and I pretty much had every piece of lighting and grip equipment that was in my arsenal. We had options. But this shot in particular, which is in fact one of my top 5 favorite shots from the short, only used one singular 4-foot long pavo tube with no diffusion and no cutters. Our talent is on the other side of a glass pane here, with us being on the other side of the glass. The pavo tube is also on the camera side of the glass, just off to the right here, and that's all that's being used to key our subject and to bring a little luminance into the writing on the glass. And that writing has a narrative purpose, so it's good that we could get a little illumination and detail on that without just blowing it out and creating way too much attention to it. You can look in the back here and you see that we have all the practicals in the background on, and that's just the lights that are in-house. And that's giving us all the ambient and shadow tones that we need in the backdrop here just to get the actual feel of the room. So literally all we had to do was just this tube to get the shape and to get that nice key light feel on our main character here. And then just positioning that tube accordingly until we got the Rembrandt we wanted and until we got enough power on the key side that we were looking for. And because that tube is going through glass, there really was no need to put diffusion material on the tube. There's no need to put muzz on this. There's no need to put any fabric or cutters or anything like that on this. The glass is handling all of the diffusion that we needed for the quality of this light. All right, third one. This one is for all of my corporate and event homies out there. Because when you're shooting events like this or some corporate stuff that isn't, just talking heads or testimonials, you're not gonna have a lot of time. but with just a couple minutes, you'd be surprised at what you can get. This was a big nonprofit event here in Pittsburgh that we wanted to get a couple interviews of, but because of the space we were in, I did so much top-down light, and there was just no way for me to get a pleasant-looking interview of any of the VIPs here unless I took them outside, and there was no time to take people outside. But as you can see here, as I'm lighting this YouTube video, let me take a quick little picture. This here was the only lighting equipment I need, and it's my old Falconized panel light. And exactly what you're seeing in my photo that I just showed you is exactly what I did in these shots. Because not only did we not have the time to put up something like a big old diffusion panel or like a 1200 with that big ass softbox and the really thick diffusion fabric, a fill light, a hair light, and all this crazy jazz, it also just wasn't necessary. Putting up this Falconized panel with its diffusion fabric that came with the light, with the grid that came with the light, and then just throwing my handy dandy trusty bleach muslin fabric that I throw over everything now these days was all I needed to get a soft, pleasant, and strong enough light on the talent. And then still also just getting enough shape where I can walk away and be happy, but for the sake of this event being corporate and being around nonprofits and needed more of a pleasantry to it, it's still getting a nice bright feel on the skin tones. And because we're indoors and I'm not NDing down a ton to compensate for the inside, I'm not fighting windows, this panel had more than enough power to light this scene. I believe I kept the thing at about 40 to 50% to light this, and then when I put the fabric over it, I boosted it to about 65 to 70%. And more importantly, it took me all of 5 minutes. Now I could have saved more time by just willy-nilly just throwing the camera in front of their face and getting the interview, but it just felt a little wrong and a little cheap, especially with all that top-down lighting. And if I can put up something nice in a few minutes and it really helps to elevate the whole video experience, there's no reason you shouldn't do it. And finally, because I cannot stop plugging my film that hasn't released yet, let's talk about a shot from Trial 54. My big fancy science fiction short film we shot last year, which by the way, if you're near the Pittsburgh area and you want to come see it in the theater, and it'll be the last chance to see it in the theater, be on the lookout because we got a pretty big announcement coming up. I think this is a great shot to look into because when I try to talk to people about creating a really deep sense of mood and sometimes dread in your cinematography, much like how Denis Villeneuve or Greg Fraser or people of that kind of archetype try to create that sense of mood and dread within their cinematography, I always point out one important fact. Usually that lighting is dedicated to one direction, one singular vector, and then the spill creates the rest. Now you could use smaller lights to add splashes, to add catch lights, or to fill the face, but the point is that we're avoiding fill lights, we're avoiding edge lights, we're avoiding anything that may combat the idea that our source of light is coming from any other direction. In this film, we had all the toys we wanted to play with. We had all the lights, we had all the tubes, we had all of this fancy jazz, but we only used one light in this scene because even when you have a ton of stuff, less is still often more, especially in narrative. I shoot plenty of stuff nowadays for interviews and corporate stuff and commercial that requires a lot more power and luminance and a bunch of lights. But I find in narrative, especially stuff like this, it's way more striking to use a singular light. And it also helps to have a powerful light in this case scenario, because this is a 1200D firing through a butterfly or about like a quarter strength diffusion grid that was rigged up to the back patio. And you can still see how hot this is on the window. In fact, in post, I did do a power window on the shot here just to bring down the highlight a little bit and just soften that bite that's coming through the window. But as far as our talent's concerned, and as far as our space is concerned, because we're just using that one point of diffused light, it is exactly what it needs. I love how it's maintaining this tone throughout the shadows and just giving us enough luminance to bring our talent to center stage to still draw your attention to the character. But because we're using that one singular light, we are maintaining that tone that I just cannot shut up about. If we were to put an edge light here, if we were putting a fill light, I think it would 100% kill the look. It would absolutely destroy it. And I gotta say, from what the camera crew and our director of photography, Mikey, was able to do. Child 54 will always be one of my favorite looking things that I got to help conjure up. All right, cool. That was fun, I think. You tell me. That's why there's a comment section. Sometimes y'all make some really funny comments, and I really like trying to figure out fun ways to respond to them. But overall, love the conversations that we've been having lately in the comments, and just loving the love we've been getting on some of the breakdowns, some of the looks into the doc work we've done recently. You know, it's just, I'm feeling really good about this YouTube channel. And we've got some really fun stuff coming the next few months, and I'm hoping to slowly but surely begin to reveal some behind the scenes of some of the absolutely wild shit that we've been working on over the last 2 years. Gonna need a little more patience, it's gonna be worth it, but for now, I hope you learned something, and I hope you at least understand that it doesn't take a whole lot to make a great image. It just takes a good eye, a good sense of fundamentals, and sometimes just one little light. Or a big one. I don't know. Whatever. I'm a perpetual hypocrite. And on that note, this has been Davis with the Six Shop. Thanks for watching another one with me. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.